A very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord, and in our news, a noted health advocate says Barbados' ranking as the 5th unhealthiest country in the world is misleading. Hear from the man with the plan to eradicate hunger in Barbados. The cost of Barbados as a destination, a trending topic. And in sports, Rashad Jules hits a beaver trick as the BDF sports program dominates last night's football action.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
And in our top story, a noted health and wellness advocate says a recent study that suggests Barbados is the 5th unhealthiest country in the world may be slightly inaccurate, but not necessarily in the way you might think. Now, in a wide-ranging interview on the health of Barbadians, obesity, and the way forward, Professor Emeritus Sir Henry Fraser says a lot of work has to be done and much of it must start within the schools. He has also rubbished suggestions that eating healthy in Barbados has to be an expensive undertaking. And the professor spoke at length on these and other issues with our Ryan Broom, who joins us live now with more details. Good evening, Ryan.
Good evening, Lisa. Good evening, viewers. Well, Professor Emeritus Fraser is a former vice chair of the National Non-Communicable Diseases Commission. He says the unhealthy and overweight situation in Barbados in many ways has now reached crisis levels.
Professor Emeritus Sir Henry Fraser says there are some key issues with the study.
First of all, they have not revealed their methodology. And so when you have surveys in which you are not clear about the methodology used, you cannot be absolutely confident about the accuracy of the results. So I would say that there's possibly a significant amount of error there, which we cannot really assess. But the criteria chosen to evaluate healthy or not healthy really are very, very variable. I mean, we know, for example, that the life expectancy in many of the African countries and in Haiti and so on is decades shorter than in Barbados. But they have looked at different criteria. So the survey really should be called Unhealthiest Lifestyles rather than unhealthiest.
He notes that lifestyle issues have been a major problem for Barbadians for decades, as was reflected in his first paper on the topic. He adds that some of the biggest problems stem from what we eat, and he dismisses the often heard argument that healthy food is more expensive. To illustrate, he points to a $2.09 bag of salted potato chips, which some parents routinely put in children's lunch bags.
For the same $2.09, you get 1 ounce of unhealthy crisps or 4 ounces of sardines. For the same $2.09, you go into the fruit section and you buy 3 or 4 bananas, depending on the size. So a mother can feed 3 or 4 children with a banana instead of 1 child with a pack of crisps. You go into the vegetable section and you can buy cheap broccoli, cabbage, pumpkin, cucumber. You can buy a pound of any of those for the same $2. Okay? Now, if you wish to have sirloin steak, then you're going to pay a lot of money for it. But why can't you eat cheap mincemeat if you want red meat, okay? Or cheap fish?
He also says more active lifestyles are crucial in an environment where both children and adults are often glued to their smart devices.
There was one public lecture I gave in which I detailed the health risks of obesity, and I was roundly abused by a number of people in the media for suggesting that I didn't like fat people. Well, as I always say, you know, some of my very best friends whom I try very hard to help are overweight, and it's nothing to do with like or dislike. It's the reality that we are in an epidemiological death wish. People are eating themselves to death.
Well, there you have it, Lisa. Some staggering words really on the situation here in Barbados, really bringing this situation into sharp focus into what we need to do next.
And Sir Henry has actually suggested some cheap, healthy alternatives.
Well, yes, well, you heard a couple of them in this story, and he's also mentioned, for example, sardines, something that a lot of us might take for granted. It's high in protein and omega oils as well. And just, I mean, he's basically saying that there are things that we can look for that are inexpensive once you shop around, that you can find to make life so much easier for us all, and when it comes to NCDs especially. to be able to do much better than we're currently doing.
So much easier and so much healthier.
Oh,
Thank you
yes.
so much, Ryan. Well, from Sir Henry, who is concerned about people eating too much or too much of the wrong food, to another person who's worried about those who don't get enough to eat. Social activist Corey Lane over the weekend received the Caribbean Award for Excellence at the 11th edition of the Anthony Sagba Awards. It carries a cash award of just under 150,000 Barbados dollars. Now, some of that will no doubt be used to fulfill Mr. Lane's pledge to help eradicate hunger in Barbados. And he joins us now to share some light on how he intends to accomplish that. Mr. Lane, welcome and congrats.
Thank you very much, and good night to everyone.
Now, hunger is not a topic we talk about a lot in Barbados. How pervasive is the issue of hunger?
I think it's very pervasive, and what we've seen over the last decade or so is a significant increase of people doing breakfast programs because they recognize the number of children who go to school very, very hungry. One of the other things you would also notice then from breakfast now to dinner, if you ever observe Heroes Square at night, Independence Square as well, there are a number of people doing feedings to the point where it became part of a group who are looking at how do we schedule people so that they do not clash with each other doing feeding. We know of the popular ones like Salvation Army, the Barbados Homeless and Vagrant Society. There's also the Hub, there's Charity Chicks, and there are a number of other people who work behind the scenes to actually address this problem of people not having enough, the opposite to the obesity problem of having too much.
Do you think it's an issue that people are embarrassed about within the home?
I think that what we've actually seen, which shows me that we have actually turned the corner and actually hitting on another curve, is the number of people you would not have ordinarily seen in the lines to get food. Some of the people that coordinate the feedings and so on tell me you have persons who are actually, they may work within the government or whatever, they park their SUVs around the corner and they come and get something to eat. One time, Barbadians were known to be very proud people, and they would not actually go to do this. Now, some people talk about priorities and misplaced priorities, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is that we are not managing correctly, and that has to do with the psychology of poverty, as I see it. Whereas I tell people it is not a state of a bank account, but a state of the mind. And how I plan to address is actually going beyond some of the programs that we've been doing where you give people a couple dollars here and a couple dollars there and a little session here and there, but really addressing the fundamental and deep root to this thing, and that is confidence in self and understanding how do you build wealth and how money actually works.
And how is Nature Fun Ranch involved?
Nature Fun Ranch is really set up to treat to a lot of root causes that we see. A lot of people who live in poverty, some of them turn to crime. Some of them are at risk for depression and so on. All of these things Nature Fun Ranch addresses. Now, we do it through our innovative programs where we look to do whatever it takes in a wholesome way to address these things. Now, when I started 21 years ago, one of the things that I recognized that at-risk youth talked specifically about youth who are violent. Now we're talking about youth who are depressed, who are extremely angry, and sometimes you don't understand the reason. Some who suffer abuse and incest and so on. So there are a wide spectrum of problems. One of the things we recognized when we started to do our young men's health program is that because of their diet, that Shirley biscuit and buster only for the entire day, that affects the way that their brain develop. That affects them even in their sex life later on in life. So the whole idea of diet and hunger and poverty, it has so many implications. We only see the superficial ones, the ones which are really on the surface and the ones that come up to you, but there are deep implications that also have other implications for things and phenomena in the society like crime and development of education and development of the society as a whole.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck in your quest to eradicate hunger, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, Barbadians living abroad are excited about coming home for Vision 2020 regathering, and that's according to Counsel General of Barbados to New York, Mackie Holder. The brainchild of Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley, that initiative is a 12-month celebration of Barbadian excellence and will also provide a forum for Barbadians living abroad to help refine the vision for the country. Now, Mr. Holder believes provision should also be made for those coming home to take part in volunteer work.
So that places like the QEH, Child Care Board, and all those other associations can benefit. There's a wealth of talent among Barbadians overseas, and we just need to tap into it. They're ready to help, and not only at 2020, but all like now, we need to welcome them. Let's work out the little kinks and let's get the support beyond remittances. We need to tap into the knowledge base and also things like grant funding, which is available, so that we can continue to advance our country.
Mr. Holder was speaking to CBC during the launch of the Care Buddy project with the pediatric unit of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. He says the hospital can expect further assistance in the form of visiting medical teams, student exchanges, scholarships and equipment. Director of the Care Buddy project, Treva Holder, says it was inspired by one of her nieces who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 12.
She received a teddy bear as part of her healing process, and she loved it, and at 25 today, that still adorns her apartment. So the idea came to me because my husband is the Consul General in New York, and I wanted to make my own contribution. Therefore, the Care Buddy project was born. And as I did my research, I realized that hospitals worldwide do this as part of the healing process that they have found by research works for kids. And I wanted our little kids in Barbados to have the same benefit.
What's Trending is brought to you by Trident Insurance. We treat you like family.
And we say good evening now to Lisa Boom, who is in our social media corner.
Hi, Lisa. So here's what's trending tonight. Tourism as the main foreign exchange earner for Barbados has been a major talking point both online and for officials. Now, the officials are concerned that the country is seen as an expensive destination, especially as room rates and levies and taxes increase. But what are Facebook users saying about this development? Well, in C. Elgin Wood's opinion, her trip to Barbados this year ended up being about 25% more expensive than last year. But Maureen LaRoque says it is possible to travel to Barbados and stay within your budget. She has some tips. She says to stay and eat with the locals and keep away from the tourist areas. And unfortunately, Lynn Peterson thinks that if the rates continue at the current level, she won't be able to come back home to Barbados again. Now, here in Barbados, you know that we love to party. And with crop over just a few months away, there will be many opportunities to do so. But let's hope there aren't any more scenes like this. Take a look. This video shows what happened at a recent local event. Patrons pushed down the partition between general and the VIP areas. Now, while we encourage you to party and have a good time, let's do it the right way. Now, anyone who knows me knows I love dogs, but the young lady in the following video, well, her choice of pet is a little different than you would normally see. Take a look.
Hello, Lime. So I'm in Sky Mall and I just saw this parrot on the table sitting down, not flying away. I had to stop. His name is Lime.
Well, while that parrot seems to be well trained and all, I think I'll stick to dogs. And over in the US, delivery services are pretty popular. You can relax at home and have your meal of choice brought to your doorstep. But after seeing this footage, I think I'll just get my own food. This delivery man appears to take a sip of the milkshake he's about to hand over.
I feel really disgusted about what had happened.
He tells Fox 40 he enjoyed his cookies and cream milkshake from Cold Stone until the next day when he learned he wasn't the only one who tried his drink.
And then my dad told me to go check out the video from last night. And once I checked it out, I brushed 5-6 times.
Well, rap music fans were shocked yesterday to learn of the death of Los Angeles rapper Nipsey Hussle. He was shot multiple times outside of a clothing store he owned, and many celebrities and fans took to social media to express their condolences. One of them, Rihanna, who posted that she was shaken by the senseless killing and was sorry that it happened. Another was John Legend, who revealed that they had just filmed a video together. Legend described the late rapper as gifted and very invested in his community. Now, as you know, the Royal Barbados Police Force is always discouraging people from sharing certain types of videos, like those of gruesome accident scenes, for instance. Well, lawmen actually want this next video to go viral. That's because they're seeking your assistance in identifying the person in the clip and that person is a suspect in the murder of Pauline Clark of Chase Gap, Halls Road in St. Michael. That incident, as you might remember, happened on July 10th last year at Civilian Road in Bush Hall. So if you have any information, contact the police on this case. And that's all the time we have for Watch Trending this evening. Remember, of course, you can find us easily on Facebook, Instagram, as well as by email. So, Lisa, I just have a quick question before we go. We feeding the parrot, or are we not feeding the parrot? We playing with it or no?
I would feed it.
Not so much a bird. Suppose he like. Anyway, that's all for now.
Don't be scared, Lisa. It's okay.
Not birds, no. Anyway,
I don't mind. I don't mind. You. Thank you so much, Lisa. A local marine activist is calling for legislation to address the types of lights homeowners and businesses can install. Director of Public Awareness and Education at the Barbados Project, Carla Daniel, says that bright lights on beachfront properties continue to be a big problem for hatchlings. In fact, she says that more than 95% end up going inland, where they become trapped or are preyed on by crabs, rats, and cats.
We have a situation where people are able to put whatever lights they want on the beach. It is completely up to them. In other countries, Florida, even in nearby islands, they've switched their lights to sea turtle friendly lights. Unfortunately, we have not yet made the move in Barbados. What this means for turtles, we did a study and it showed that nesting females are less likely to come out of the water to go on a beach if it is extremely brightly lit. So they're avoiding beaches where they could safely nest and going on darker beaches that might be narrower or more dangerous for them. With hatchlings, you all know hatchlings come up, they go inland. They're wasting energy, they're being eaten.
Well, Barbadians are continuing to embrace the programs offered at the University of the West Indies Open Campus. This as the campus distinguishes itself by offering most of its courses online. Head of Marketing Cleveland Sam says they provide the platform for students who do not want to give up their jobs to complete UE degrees. Now, the Open Campus is playing a part in developing teachers through a doctorate in teaching and learning, with emerging technologies set to be introduced in September.
This basically will give the teachers cutting-edge ideas in terms of how to deliver education with the modern communication technologies. We're also promoting something we call PLA, Prior Learning Assessment. Now, what PLA does, it gives applicants to the Open Campus credits for their work experience, not necessarily a qualification, but for your work experience. So how does PLA work? When you apply to do one of our programs online, you indicate that you would like to be considered for PLA credits.
Trinidad and Tobago's Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, is urging parents to take more responsibility when it comes to raising their children. He says that the younger generation is involved in criminal activities at a much earlier age. We have a report from TTT.
There was an operation by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. A 14-year-old was held with a Glock firearm in Carnage. And that is typical of what I'm speaking about, a 14-year-old.
Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith recapping a police raid last evening. Addressing a breakfast meeting with members of the Carnage Police Youth Club and residents of the area, Mr. Griffith scolded parents for not rectifying their bad behavior.
The reason he had that firearm was to commit a crime. Had he drawn that firearm, gone into somewhere, and the police shot him, the first thing you would have heard is the irresponsible parents, the irresponsible friends, neighbors rushing to defend their son and say it was the police. The police drew and killed him in cold blood.